At this time, to kick off our gubernatorial forum, we feel it very appropriate to ask Brianna Duckworth to come to the stage, and she is going to treat us with a performance of the national anthem. I'm going to ask that everyone join us in the middle of the arena for the national anthem, and then Heather We Met will come to the stage after that, and we will get started with the forum. Thank you all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
In just a minute, we want to introduce our Sergeant of Arms, Roy Shrewsbury and Nancy Kissinger. If you all will, here we are right here. They've done this many, many years for the Chamber of Commerce, and we appreciate them. They're our Sergeant of Arms and our timekeeper. And for those of you that may not know about this timekeeper, he's done it for umpteen years at these Meet the Candidates forums. It's Pete Tirico, and this is the sound. This is the sound, gentlemen, that you want to be listening for. It's the cowbell. When you hear the cowbell, you'll have 10 seconds left. And that is Pete Tirico, our timekeeper. And now we want to introduce our distinguished media panel. We begin on the left here with Lola Reiser of WWNR News Talk 101.1 FM. Next to Lola, Ben Schwartz of WVVA, that's NBC television here in southern West Virginia, along with some others, including MeTV. Next to him, Rivers Upchurch of WVNS-TV 59 News and Fox 59 News as well. Then we have Micah Leith of WOAY ABC 4. Next to Micah, Cameron Gano of the Loot Press, Keith Thompson with WJLS AM and FM, and Damon Kane, who is with the Beckley Register Herald newspaper. This is our distinguished media panel here. Give them a round of applause. So we want to introduce you to our candidates here, our gubernatorial candidates. We'll go down the list here first, and then we'll begin our forum. We have Moore Capito, Republican from, I believe he's from Charleston. You're from Charleston, aren't you? Yes, sir. All right. He is with us this afternoon. Also, Kevin Casey Christian, Republican running for governor. We have Chase Linko Looper of the Mountain Party with us today. Also, Chris Miller, Republican. Patrick Morrissey, Republican. Mitch Roberts, Republican. Mike Warner, Republican. And Steve Williams, a Democrat, all running for governor. And we want to begin with Moore Capito. He'll be our first candidate, and what we would like, Mr. Capito, is a 30-second opening statement, then we'll have a couple of questions for you. Come on up to the podium, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much for the welcome. It's great to be here. Always when I walk in this building, I can't help but remember playing ball here in the Cole Classic, so it's always good to be back. I can tell you I was more nervous back then playing then, but I'm Moore Capito. I'm a lifelong West Virginian, father of 2 kids, and I am the get-it-done conservative running for governor. The candidate in this race that has taken good ideas and turned them into good policy that has helped move the state forward. I'm honored to be here today. I'm asking for your trust, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
All right, let's go to our questions now. Our first question from Lola Reiser of WWNR.
Welcome.
Hi,
Thank
Lola.
you so much for being with us. One of the things that we see here in the southern coal fields is a lot of industry coming into the state but it's going to Wheeling, it's going to Morgantown and to Shepherdstown. What is it going to take to get more businesses to invest in all of the southern coal fields?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple answers to that. One of the biggest things that we have to do, particularly in southern West Virginia, is make sure that our infrastructure assets are up to grade. So that means water and sewer, but making sure that all of our areas have access to broadband, internet, or connectivity so that all of our businesses can grow and thrive. Businesses these days need to be connected, and we know that small business particularly want to come to areas of the country exactly like this in southern West Virginia. But we have to have the connectivity to be able to support them. Workforce training is incredibly important. I've traveled 85,000 miles across this state. Every single county and every place that we go, we stop by our CTEs and our CTCs to see what our students are engaged in. We know that if we build the workforce here in West Virginia, that companies will come. So as your governor, we will double and triple down on those career and technical opportunities so that our children are leaving high school able to work and enter the workforce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capito. The next question for Ben Schwartz of WVVA.
Hey, Ben.
Thank you. Hello. We are at our station, WVVA, continually told by foster care agencies about the urgent need for parents and that a shortage of foster parents has just continued on. What could you do as governor to help alleviate that problem?
Well, we need to make sure that our services are sort of in the right order. A lot of these calls that CPS are getting should be sort of last call type things. So we need to make sure that the prevention assets are in place so that our CPS workers aren't overrun, number one. We know that that's happening. I've talked to CPS workers all across the state, and that's a common trend. So we need to ensure that when these episodes happen, and I can tell you as a father, I mean, they're devastating, some of these things that you read, that our folks in West Virginia are educated and know where to call. Our neighbors and our schools and our churches are informed about the process, so I think it's partially processed. But we also have to engage our foster parents. Let them know how much we appreciate what they do every single day. These are incredibly giving people. And we talk about community service, and I can't think of a community service more important than our great foster parents.
All right, thank you, Mr. Capito.
Thank you.
Hang around on stage. We'll call you back for a 60 second closing statement here in just a
Fill
minute.
the air.
Next up, we have Kevin K.C. Christian, Republican, running for governor. If you'll come to the podium, Mr. Christian, and we have a 30-second opening statement, please.
Hello, Raleigh County. My name is Kevin K.C. Christian. I'm running because nobody that looks like me and looks like you or thinks like me and thinks like you ever runs for the governor of West Virginia. I have the skills and I have the chops to get it done, and I love you more than I myself, and that's why I'm running for governor. I was born right down the road in Mercer County. My wife is from Raleigh County. She's sitting right there. She said she saw Tiny Tim right here in this very auditorium. And I won't say how long ago she said she did. But I'm running because these guys are talking about woke while West Virginia goes broke. And I'm here to give you an opportunity to stop that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Christian. We have a question for you. First question from Rivers Upchurch of 59 News.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I talk to a lot of politicians, and one of the things that they always bring up is that our greatest export is young people leaving the state, and that there are no jobs for young people here in West Virginia, and that our best young people leave to go to Virginia or North Carolina or wherever. What is one policy of yours that you think would actually go towards, it's easy to say, oh, we want to create a bunch of jobs.
Right.
How would you actually go about doing it?
Okay, 1 minute. Wow, brother. So these guys cut taxes, and I agree with them. Like, I'm all for cutting taxes, and I'm all for, I wish we had no taxes in West Virginia. But you gotta make that revenue up somewhere. And we're all business people. How do you make revenue? You have to capitalize resources. Now, the big global corporations have left town, man. They have just split for other places. So we have resources sitting in the ground, and we need that capital now. So I say, let's start a state bank. Let's fund that bank through quantitative easing from the Federal Reserve, put that money into resources, build a true surplus to our economy, use that to flip that into a private business economy where the people of West Virginia, the citizens, are the entrepreneurs and not these outsiders.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next question for Mr. Christian from Micah Leath of WOAY-TV.
In the last legislative session, Governor just vetoed a bill that would have made some exemptions for vaccines at private and parochial schools. If a similar bill comes to your desk as governor, would you also veto it?
Vaccines, mandating, look, that's a tough one, and I'm glad you asked. Vaccines are important for public safety, and if you come into the public area, I think that you have a responsibility to protect your neighbors. If you don't want to take the vaccine, I think that's cool too. Like, I live out in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't need one myself because I live in the woods. But yeah, I wouldn't veto. I mean, I don't want mandates, but I do think that we have policies that let private businesses decide if they want to allow unvaccinated people into the place, but I don't think that's a place for government intervention.
All right, thank you, Mr. Christian, thank you.
Thanks.
Our next candidate is Chase Linko Looper. Not here, okay, not here. Our next one would be Chris Miller, Republican for Governor. Mr. Miller, a 30-second opening statement.
My name is Chris Miller. When I was 10 and a half years old, I told my dad I wanted a pair of Air Jordan tennis shoes. When he found out they cost $125, you know what he told me? Get a job. And I've been working ever since. Eventually I got involved in our family's businesses, and when I got involved, we had two. And through a lot of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, I was able to turn that into 26 different enterprises. We employ 700 people, 500 of which are right here in West by God, Virginia, and the simple fact remains the same. If I ran my businesses the way the government spends our tax dollars, I'd be broke. More importantly, we're moving to a time where we need less politicians, less attorneys, and less bureaucrats, and more business people involved in making sure and running state government, because state government is a business. And if we're going to do what we need to do in the state of West Virginia, we need to have our best and our brightest business people on the field.
And we have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Miller. First, from Cameron Gano of the Loot Press.
Good afternoon. As Micah mentioned during this morning's forum, we briefly discussed Governor Justice's recent veto of legislation pertaining to student vaccines. What is your stance on veto power? When is veto justified, and when might it constitute overreach or unnecessary interference in the work of the legislature?
So if we're thinking about the relationship of government, technically speaking, all of us here are taxpayers, and we should be looked at as valued shareholders with a single-minded focus for providing us return on investment for our tax dollars. Now, when it comes to veto power, it should always be about the people, and this should be about what the people want. And the representatives are elected by the people, and they bring a bill to the governor. This is kind of an indication that this is about what the people are looking for. But you have to listen to the people, understand what they're looking for, and there might be a time, because your job is to represent the people, where you have to make that decision. Very rare, but it does need to happen sometimes.
Thank you.
The next question for Mr. Miller from Keith Thompson of WJLS.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Hey, question involving jobs. The steel mill out on the Ohio River is coming. There's been a lot of jobs created in West Virginia over the last 7 or 8 years. We've lost a couple with Wheeling and the AWP people. What do you do to continue the job growth in the state and bring some of that down to this area?
So if we don't grow our economy and grow our population, we have a major fiscal cliff coming, and it's going to be enormous. We have to focus on everything that we do considering economic development. If you think about West Virginia, capital always flows like water to the places that it's most welcome, so we have to make ourselves welcome and open to investment. Plus, West Virginia has what everybody is looking for. Aside from coal, natural gas, we have more water that passes through our state than any other state in the country. We have rare earth element seams right here in West Virginia, and we can produce more power through geothermal heat than Saudi Arabia can generate BTUs of natural gas. When you add all that stuff up, I believe we ought to make the foundation of all of our economic growth and development the fact that West Virginia can be the cheapest state in the union with power production. So we use that, dramatically drive down the cost by about 70%. Businesses will come to us. But not only that, you think about our history, we've been extracted for way too long and don't have a lot to show for it. If we cut the cost of power by 70%, you think about Jim and Susie Adkins, both of them are 70 years old and retired. You've done something incredibly impactful for them as well. And that's the absolute direction that we need to be going for as a state.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Next up on our forum, Patrick Morrissey, also Republican, running for the governor of the state of West Virginia. Mr. Morrissey, a 30-second opening statement.
Great. It's a pleasure to be back here in Raleigh County. I've been here many times in the 12 years I've served as AG. I'm running for governor because I am the only proven conservative running with a record of getting big things done for the state, whether it's successfully defending Hope Scholarship, protecting our jobs, our coal jobs, keeping those coal trains running. With the cities and the counties, #1 per capita drug settlements in the country, over $1 billion, endorsed West Virginians for Life, every gun group, West Virginia Coal Association, West Virginia Farm Bureau, and I was the first to endorse President Trump. We need someone who's conservative, who's proven and qualified, not someone who just started to learn this process a couple months ago. Thank you.
And we have a couple of questions for you. Our first question for Mr. Morrissey comes from Damon Kane of the Register Herald.
Welcome, Mr. Attorney General. West Virginia is among the highest rates of child poverty, child abuse cases, and children with disabilities. The legislature seems incapable of doing anything to address the child care crisis in our state. With federal funding for daycare centers ending this summer, alternative funding measures are needed soon, or we have been told by daycare operators that they will close their doors. Should the legislature address such funding during a special session in May?
So I think that we need to make sure we address the child care problems, but we have a bigger challenge here in West Virginia. We have to make sure that we're addressing the fundamental challenges with our economy and state revenue. And what I would do is make sure that we're driving the economy forward by having an economic competition against all the states that we touch. Look at what everything West Virginia is doing, then compare it to Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland. Have that competition to drive economic growth. When you drive economic growth, then we have additional resources to be able to address the other issues facing our state. The child care, the infrastructure issues, the broadband problem. So we absolutely need to address all of these issues. The legislature has a good start on this, but we need to do a lot more, and you start by filling many of those 65,000 jobs out there. That'll drive the revenue we need to get West Virginia in a much better place.
Second question for Mr. Morrissey comes from Lola Reiser of WWNR.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I am very well. Thank you
Good.
so much for asking. In your campaign, you proclaimed that you are pro-life, and you just mentioned that you have been endorsed by West Virginians for life. But what is your stance on reproductive health care?
Well, I can say I'm proudly pro-life, and I think one of the most important things that public officials can do is to defend the sanctity of life. The babies are voiceless. They don't have anyone to stand for them. As Attorney General, I'm proudly defending West Virginia's law. I think that's critical, because if we don't look out for the babies, who will? So I've been pro-life as an Attorney General. I'll be a pro-life governor. And I think it's really important, to get to some of your other points, that we care for the babies once they're born. I think far too often you see people in the movement only talking about being pro-life until the baby is born. We need to make sure that there's a warm and positive home for them in the future, and that they're supported the right way. That's a critical thing we need to do in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. Thank you. Next up on our forum here, as we continue along, is Mitch Roberts, a Republican candidate for the governor of the state of West Virginia. Mr. Roberts, if you'll come to the podium and do a 30-second opening.
30 seconds. My name is Mitch Roberts, and I joined this group of fine gentlemen because I'm passionate as well about the state of West Virginia. And one of my biggest cares is your freedom. And I just want to make sure that the people's freedom is protected. I'm out here doing what I'm doing. I've been in Beckley, West Virginia, in a business, and it's unfortunately closed due to the downturn of coal. I used to run Bosley Rental down here on Rackman Road, so I know about Beckley, and I know about the people of Beckley. And what I tell you is, with the opportunity, and I'm not a professional, you know, I'm not going to speak of accolades or anything, but what I am is a person that when I give you my word, it's my bond. And I won't make you promises I can't keep, and I ask for nothing. I have not accepted the first dime or dollar toward any contribution toward campaign funds, but I'm here in it to win it.
We have a couple questions for you, Mr. Roberts. First, from Ben Schwartz of WVVA.
Thank you. Hello, sir. There were a number of bills introduced during this past legislative session regarding school safety, from allowing teachers to arm themselves to hiring veterans as safety officers at schools, among others. What do you believe is the best approach to that issue?
Well, I think we have the right to own a gun. I own guns, okay? I don't necessarily believe that we have a situation. We've seen this tragedy across the United States with those school shootings and stuff. But I think to take a gun into a situation where there's children and education, I don't agree with that. I just be honest with you. We're not the Wild West. We're the United States of America. And even though we have problems, our problems can be solved other ways. There's you know, the old saying, guns don't kill people, people kill people. That's a fact. But I don't think that we need to necessarily weaponize or put guns on teachers that are there to set a good example. And to me, that's not showing the right thing. That's the Wild West. And as far as veterans, this country needs to take care of the men and women that sacrificed their life or went and served for this country and our freedoms, and give them every opportunity possible, whether it be at the school. I mean, they're trained. These men and women are highly trained to protect. And there's nobody going to do a better job. If you look at your law enforcement, the majority of your law enforcement is ex-military. They'll do a wonderful job.
And your second question, Mr. Roberts, comes from Rivers Up Church of 59 News.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
I want to ask you, because we're here in Raleigh County, I feel like it's only fair to ask about Southern Regional Jail. So we have seen staff accused of assaulting inmates, and we have also seen higher-ups accused of trying to cover up wrongdoing at Southern Regional Jail that they are now on federal trial for. How would you deal with something like that, and how would you deal with trying to fix a correction system that doesn't seem to be helping people?
Well, the correction system, we got to understand when you have been incarcerated for whatever reason, I mean, that doesn't mean you're a bad guy, but it doesn't mean you're a good guy either. I mean, you've committed a crime, and therefore you are where you're at. A lot of the corrections officers on the regional basis aren't being paid as the federal, and we know that. And, you know, you got a few, you know, it'd be like me taking care of these first 40 people by myself. And the truth is, it's almost impossible to do. Now, anybody, let's face it, if there's a law in place, the Bible says to follow the laws of the land. So therefore, if you violate that law, there should be replication for whatever law you violated. And nobody is, and I say this with much emphasis, nobody is above the law. So anybody that breaks that law, let's do what we have to do to make it right. Make it right whether for the inmate, but you know, let's get the whole story. I'm sure the jails, and I've never been in jail, thank God for that, but I'm sure those jails are loaded with cameras and this, that, and the other. And I've talked to some law enforcement officers, and let's face it, it's expensive to maintain that. A lot of counties can't. So, you know, maybe we need to look at something other than a regional jail system. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. We want to remind our radio audience that you're listening to this Meet the Candidates Forum as a part of Future Forward with the Beckley-Raleigh County Chamber of Commerce here at the Beckley-Raleigh County Convention Center. You're listening on WJLS Beckley and WWNR Beckley, West Virginia. Now, moving right along, we want to invite Mike Warner up to the podium, and we'd like a 30-second opening statement, Mr. Warner.
Thank you. In determining your next governor, you should look at the person, the family, the state, and the nation. As a person, I was an Eagle Scout, went to West Point, went to WVU, served in the military for 23 years. Family, I've been married to a wonderful woman, Debbie Law Warner, a delegate, raised 4 wonderful children. The state, you elected me to the office of Secretary of State. I've cleaned up the election rolls and made West Virginia a shining example for the entire nation. And country, I've served in the nation, I've put on this uniform and served this nation proudly. Got the complete package. If you want a cool, calm, collected governor, you're looking at him, Mac Warner. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Warner. First question coming from Micah Leath of WOAY-TV.
The Biden administration is spending $129 million to fund a solar installation project on 2 former surface coal mine sites in Nicholas County. There was very little input by the current governor's office on that project. If you're elected, how would your administration handle the diversification of West Virginia's energy economy?
Thank you. 2 points to that. First is I'm an all-energy sort of person, and the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. The capital market should be deciding that. The second is these decisions should be made at the local level. We should push the decisions down to the lowest Regional Economic Development Council and let them determine. The other thing is we shouldn't be buying jobs. We should be investing in the community. That means putting in the water, the sewer, basically making a site footer ready to go, and then let the market decide, and the local people decide what is the best option for that location.
Second question, Mr. Warner, from Cameron Gano of the Loot Press.
You just touched on this briefly, but I want to ask, what do you feel, in your view, should be the role of government in society?
I'm a Republican. I adhere to all 10 planks of the Republican platform. So right to life, strong national defense, less government, lower taxes, all those sorts of things. So the government's role is to support. See, the rights come from God, not from government. That's one of the fundamental differences between the left and the right. And so it's government's job to protect those rights and to make sure that the individuals have the right to exercise those rights. So that's the proper role of government, pushing it down to the lowest possible level and making decisions at the local level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. As we move right along here, we want to invite Steve Williams, the Democratic candidate for governor of the state of West Virginia, up. And Mr. Williams, we'd like a 30-second opening statement, please.
That's never happened for me before. My name's Steve Williams. I'm the mayor of Huntington, West Virginia. I grew up just down the road in Athens, West Virginia, in Mercer County, and moved to Huntington when I was 16 after my dad quit coaching at Concord. As I said, I've been the mayor of Huntington for the last 12 years, took a city that was bankrupt and was having all sorts of problems with businesses moving out of town. We have been named the America's Best Community because of our infrastructure and innovation programs, and I look forward to having a chance to chat with you further about it.
Well, we have a couple of questions for you. We want to begin the questioning with Keith Thompson of WJLS.
Mayor, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Glad to be home.
It wasn't that many years ago that there would have been 6 Democrats and 1 Republican sitting up there. Now there's 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And I think the switch in West Virginia may have started here when Russ Weeks won a Senate race a number of years back. There are no Democrats running anything in the state government. How can you win it?
One thing that I've learned from my days when I was in the legislature for 4 terms, I learned how to work on both sides of the aisle. The reason that we've had success in Huntington is that we have been very collaborative. I haven't done anything. We have done everything. The whole idea is that when we come together, it's amazing how strong we are. And then when we get people from diverse backgrounds around the table, it's amazing how much brilliance comes out of that and how innovative that we become. Fact of the matter is that I will be a Democrat that will have Republicans coming in to meet with me on a regular basis, because I've worked with Republican presidents, Republican governors, and I've worked with Republican senators and Democratic senators as well. It doesn't matter what letter is after the name. You either have a WV after the name or an A for American after your name, and that's all that qualifies. What we have to do, and as a mayor, we come to understand that potholes don't have party labels with them. We have to deliver, and that's why a mayor can be a wonderful governor, because we know how to deliver.
A final question for you, Mr. Williams, from Damon Kane of the Beckley Register Herald.
Welcome, Mr. Williams. The legislature, news reports say, is contemplating a special section in May and is focused on passing a grade school discipline law that would suspend kids as young as kindergarten. Kids who are having behavioral problems through no fault of their own sometimes. Do you support such legislation?
I'm really troubled by that, because it's immediately saying that with these children that are acting out in some way, that they absolutely need to be punished. And listen, I believe that you have to have compassion, but also show a level of accountability. It's critically important. But so many of these children are coming out of broken homes where drugs have been the way of life, where they're not sure where they're going to be laying their heads down at night. What we need to have in every one of the schools is we need to have behavioral health professionals there to be able to help the children, but also to be able to help the teachers. We need to provide teachers. The helpers need help as well. We created a program that's totally unrelated to this within the school system, but we had first responders, police officers, and firefighters that were dealing with the drug problems every single day, and they were finding, well, just let them die. Well, the reason they took the job was to try to be able to lift people up. We created an innovative program that we call the Compass Project that actually brings in professional behavioral health assistance as well as physical health assistance to be able to provide to those individuals, and that has become something that is being innovative and followed across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We now come to the part of our closing statements, and we want to invite More Capito back to the podium for a 1-minute closing statement. Mr. Capito?
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here again. I'm More Capito, and I'm the Get It Done conservative, as I said earlier. I've cut taxes. I've increased our teachers' pay. I've promoted school choice and implemented school choice here in the state of West Virginia, and built opportunities for entrepreneurs and innovators. We have great momentum in the state of West Virginia, and we need somebody that knows how to govern. And that's why I tell you that I'm the one that has the experience of doing that. But we have to go to the next level. We have to be able to claim that West Virginia has the safest communities in the country. That's why our number one priority is public safety. We have to ensure that we have world-class educational opportunities, because it's not only a moral responsibility, it's an economic one too. And we have to make sure that we unlock our fossil fuels here in West Virginia so that this state leads this country's return to energy independence. I spoke earlier today with students at Sissonville High School, and a young lady asked me, what is one of the biggest challenges that we have in the state of West Virginia? And I said, we don't understand how great we are. This is about telling our story. And I will tell that story for each one of you for the story that it is. Not the story that others outside of these boundaries tell it to be. It is time that we dictate our own narrative, and when we do, we will grow explosively, and everybody in the eyes of the world will be on West Virginia. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. More Capito, Republican candidate for the governor of the state of West Virginia. Thank you. Next up, we want to call Kevin Casey Christian for a 1-minute closing statement. Mr. Christian?
Thanks, everyone, for having me. I'm running for one reason. I grew up in the southern coal fields right down 52 in McDowell County, and ever since I was a boy, there's been nothing but economic devastation and people that need help. And for 70 years, we've elected people who said that they were going to help us. Now, was it our fault? No, I mean, it doesn't seem like it, right? We looked at the candidates, we heard what they were saying. We're smart people. Just the fact of the matter is, they weren't working for us. They haven't been working for us. I have one goal. I'm a centrist Republican. I'm not a far-right guy in this room. I'll fully admit that. And I've given an opportunity to everyone, the big group in the middle, if you want to get corporate money out of our politics, and we have to if we're going to move forward in West Virginia, then help me help you. Elect me in the May primary so I can run this corporate money the heck out of West Virginia, and we could be neighbors again and govern as neighbors. How do you do that? Well, you don't vote for the corporate candidates that you see on their media stations trying to tell you who to vote for. If you want to find out more about me, I'm plenty qualified. Go to www.kcforwv.org. If you like what I have to say, I can tell you that I'm in it for you. I will serve you, West Virginia. When you're getting ready to mark that ballot and you come to that governor, just vote with your heart. Your heart will know that I love you. I will serve you all the way to the cross. No suit, no tie, mad skills, vote KC.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin Casey Christian, Republican candidate for governor in the state of West Virginia. Next, we'd like to invite Chris Miller back to the podium for a 1-minute closing statement. Mr. Miller?
So the governor of the state is basically a CEO, and his job is to report to the taxpayers and solve problems. And right now, we've got problems. We're dead last in just about everything from economy to education. The only thing we're first in is the number of grandparents raising grandkids. We also have this good old boy system that's been running our state for far too long, and it gets in the way of actually getting stuff done. Plus, our greatest export right now is not our coal or our natural gas. Our greatest export is our educated kids. We've got to fix that. Good news is there's solutions. We need to run state government more like a business. We need to audit every single dime that we spend, and we need to make sure and create an economy that thrives. We also need to kick special interest completely and utterly out of the governor's administration, because we don't need outside influence and outside business telling us what we need to be doing. And last, we need to kick the wokeism completely and utterly out of our school systems, because my 11-year-old daughter's sitting right there, and I don't want her sharing a bathroom with a biological male under any circumstances. Our state has an incredible amount of potential. We can do incredible things, and we don't realize how great we have been. If you think about this, our people mined the coal that built the steel that led to a victory in World War I. And we mined the coal that built the steel that led to a victory in World War II. And we mined the coal that led to the cheap energy and the greatest capitalistic expansion in human history. We did that. We are capable of greatness. And if you hand me the keys, I will roll up my sleeves and work 70 hours a week to make sure the state of West Virginia takes its place in the emerging 21st century economy. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Chris Miller, Republican candidate for governor in the state of West Virginia. Next up, Patrick Morrissey, Republican candidate for governor. A 1-minute closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patrick Morrissey. I'm your West Virginia Attorney General. Many of you may know over the years, I've been down to Raleigh County, I've been in southern West Virginia so many times, focusing on solving the problems of this area. When the coal trains were stopped by Barack Obama and Joe Biden, one person on the stage stepped up and said no, organizing a massive coalition to stop the radical Biden administration, protecting our coal jobs. When there were challenges with the opioid epidemic, I sued the drug companies. We have the #1 per capita settlements in the nation. It's not even close. As your governor, I'll be the one proven conservative with the record of getting very big things done in the arena, driving educational attainment, standard of living, and keeping woke out of West Virginia. But those aren't just buzzwords. You need actual experience to know how to deal with the radicals in Washington, Biden, and Bloomberg. I've been in the arena time after time, fought them, and I've won. And we're well positioned to work with President Trump, who I do think will be the next president of the United States. I'm Patrick Morrissey, your Attorney General. I'd be honored to serve as your governor. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Patrick Morrissey, Republican candidate for governor in the state of West Virginia. Next up, a closing statement from Mitch Roberts, also Republican candidate for governor. Mr. Roberts?
Well, what I'm going to tell you, it's amazing, because in America, in the state of West Virginia, we can live the dream. I'm living my dream. I've been with these gentlemen on some speaking engagements. They're amazing. I think the system takes good people and turns them into something they're not, because they can't beat it. I really want to address something that Lola said earlier about the businesses like in Jackson County and Newport. Here's what I'm going to tell you about that, in my opinion. This is only my opinion. I believe the state offered more money to attract new businesses. And Newport on the river, okay, Pete or Procter & Gamble, they're all on the border states. You guys aren't in border states. You wonder why you don't get that? Because you're not on border states. Because these companies will tell you they do not feel in the state of West Virginia there is enough qualified people to work the jobs they're going to offer. That's where we need to fix it. We need to start, and I mentioned it the other night in Summersville, put these educational, go in 9th grade and let these kids start learning how to weld, how to lay block, lay brick, because those jobs are there. I can't even get anybody to put in an application. So if we focus in building what these businesses want, and that's people, and not outside the state, I promise you they'll be everywhere, including Beckley. They might be in Clarksburg. I mean, not just the river cities. I mean, I see it all the time. I don't care if it's Toyota. I don't care if it's Nucor, whatever. And let's build them the workforce that they need to be right here. Thank you, thank God. I stood in front of God and witnessed this, and it's the best thing I ever did. Thanks.
Thank you, Mitch Roberts, Republican candidate for governor in the state of West Virginia. Next up, we want to invite Mike Warner up for a 1-minute closing statement. Mr. Warner?
I am Mac Warner. I'm a battle-tested constitutional Christian conservative. 10 years ago, I was in Afghanistan where 6 gate guards were killed, 11 wounded. I was one of the people in charge of handling that situation. This governor is going to face crisis. You need somebody who's battle-tested. Constitutional, I'm a West Virginia law school trained lawyer. I understand the importance of following the rule of law. Constitutional Christian. In the beginning, God. When you start with God, everything else makes sense. When you start with government and man, then things don't make sense. You have men playing in girls' sports and in their locker rooms. Doesn't make sense. And conservative. A conservative is opposite of the progressive. The progressive thinks that everything started and ended with them. If you don't know history, you're a leaf that doesn't know that it's part of a tree, fluttering in the breeze. No, a constitutional Christian conservative believes that it's our job to pass along to people like Charlotte Miller there the traditions of what worked in the past. It's government's job to preserve those and protect individual rights and not to rule from the position of government. My foundation stones are the Bible, the West Virginia, and the U.S. Constitutions. My name is Mac Warner. I appreciate your support, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk this afternoon.
Thank you. Mac Warner, Republican candidate for governor here in West Virginia. Now we'd like to invite Steve Williams back, Democratic candidate for the governor of West Virginia. A 1-minute closing statement, Mr. Williams.
So what's your dream? What would you dream so big that would make you hyperventilate? And can we accomplish that here in West Virginia? Now, I think we all agree, yes, we can, but what we look at from healthcare and infrastructure, we're ranked 50th among the states. When we start seeing everything from infrastructure, healthcare, education, economy, and we're ranking so low, in order for us to be able to compete, to be able to reach that top 5, the top 10%, we have to be going faster than anybody. Now, the reality is that we have an opportunity here that nobody else has. We're West Virginians. We're used to having people who underestimate us. But the fact of the matter is that we have to make huge plans, make no little plans. And the fact of the matter is, that was my city 12 years ago. And what we've been able to do is that we have been able to take ourselves and have dreams that are so big that nobody thought that we were capable of being able to accomplish them. And then what we did find is that we became known as a city of innovation. West Virginia will be able to make the world stand back and take notice. Dream dreams so big that they make you hyperventilate. We are West Virginians.
Thank you, Steve Williams, Democratic candidate for governor here in the state of West Virginia. Let's give all of our gubernatorial candidates a round of applause. We appreciate your time and for you all being here today. Thank you. This concludes our Meet the Candidates program. Thanks again to our sponsor, Dunbar Printing. We do encourage everyone to vote, and thank you for coming today.